All right, what's up? It's your Captain Ruben Diaz here. That's right, I'm filling in for Avery Braxton again, who's still out on vacation. I got to check his PTO. That dude's got a lot of PTO. We're going to have to get a check-in on that. We do have a special guest for you today, the head honcho of your Memphis Tigers women's basketball team, joining me to talk about the ever-changing world of college athletics. And boy, it is changing every day. We're also going to talk about how Memphis is trying to find its way and navigate this crazy course. And of course, after all that, we got to talk about what's actually going on in the NBA as well. We preview the NBA Finals, Game 5. We're going to talk about the big trade involving the beloved, now former Grizzly, Desmond Bane. A lot to get to. It's Monday, June 16th. The 24th floor starts right now. Go ahead and hit my theme music. All right, it is Monday, a magnificent Monday here in Memphis. There's a lot of M's in that. You gotta alliterate to get that many M's in. It depends on who you're talking to, right? If you're a Grizzlies fan, you might be feeling a little bit some kind of way. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, our guest today. All right, you can say we're in the presence of basketball royalty, because we are. She played some very high-level basketball. Here on the 24th floor, we like to give our guests their accolades and their flowers. Two-time NCAA champion as a player at the University of Tennessee, a McDonald's All-American, a former Tennessee Miss Basketball as a coach, former Coach of the Year, known for turning programs around, did that very well. Now the head coach of the Memphis Tigers basketball team. Welcome to the show, Ms. Alex Simmons.
Thank you. I need to make sure you do my intro for every game.
Well, confession time, I didn't write all that. That would be Richard Denson, our producer, who did all the writing, so hats off to Rich. But I did do the research, so I knew all the facts. I just didn't actually do all the writing. But yes, if you would like to hire me as your pre-game hype man,
yeah.
we can do that,
we
before the game starts. I'll just go out there. Let's start, though, with the big idea. This is what we call the big idea. All right, so starting July 1st, college sports enters a new era of revenue sharing. The NCAA is laying down some ground rules to go with this. So let's break some of this down. From now on, transfer buyouts will count against a school's $20.5 million salary cap. That's part of that House versus the NCAA settlement, which eventually raises the cap to $30 million over the next decade. So what does that actually mean? So that means if a school pays to get a player out of another program, then that buyout hits that school's cap, not the school that the player left. It's the NCAA's way of kind of cracking down on what some are calling free agency in that transfer portal, turning those buyouts into real budget decisions, which is something I've said needed to happen for a long time. So, Coach, let's talk a little bit about this because this is your world. You've got to live this world.
A lot of head coaches become general managers and presidents. CEOs, that's kind of where the direction of being a head coach is.
It changes, been around women's college basketball for several years now, and a lot of my friends in the business say that they do less coaching now than they've ever done in the past because of all of this navigating of finances and player personnel and all these things that they have to do now. Do you feel that that's coming your direction too?
It's definitely filled my days with more than just the X's and O's of basketball, more than film work. You just have to constantly be thinking a step ahead, and I think that's where our university has done a really good job of being a step ahead, and then when the House settlement hit, being ready to hit the ground running.
How do you think this helps or hurts a school Memphis' size? I worked in Tulsa for a decade and covered the University of Tulsa, very similar size school, very similar school in general because it was kind of a commuter school as well for the most part for people. Do you think the size, does this help or does this hurt, do you feel like?
Well, I think in this situation, leadership matters. And I definitely think it has helped a school like Memphis. I can only speak for women's basketball, but I think it's allowed us to get to a level that we're competing with some of the top teams in the country. That's where we want to get to, especially going into year 3. I think we got the personnel to do so, but I think Memphis and our administration has done a really good job of putting us in a position to excel and putting us in a position to win championships.
Do you think this, because to be honest, when you try to read the legalese of this decision, your brain will start to, do flips. But as you break it down, do you feel like it kind of helps separate maybe some of that NIL? Because that's been the big issue is the NIL could be so overpowering for a big school, and then a smaller school just can't compete money-wise when it comes to NIL. But do you think this helps kind of negate some of that NIL advantage because now you have revenue share you can offer?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest difference is NIL technically was never guaranteed. You kind of got to work a lot harder to get NIL, whether you're, in a brand partnership or you're on commercials for a brand. You're doing quick snippets on social media where revenue sharing, it's there. It's not going to change. It could go up, it could go down in the following year, but within that year's contract, it's not going to change. So I think that's the biggest difference. In my opinion, it has allowed us to be able to compete where NIL, you really have to have people in place that can pinpoint some of those brands and some of those companies.
And you've seen this across the board now with women's college basketball, thanks in part to the Angel Reese and the Caitlin Clarks of the world and the Paige Beckers of the world, how the popularity has continued to grow. It's almost like a great time for revenue sharing to come into play because women's college basketball is at an all-time high.
Well, and those players that you just mentioned, they had great teams around them, but they also just did a great job of always trying to be advocates for our game, whether it be women's basketball at college or the WNBA. I always go back to, and some people may think I'm biased, but I always go back to the Candace Parkers of the world, the Sylvia Fowles of the world, Simone Augustus, who were big names back when I played. But obviously and unfortunately didn't get these opportunities. And I think those are the players that technically started it. And then, as we move forward, the student athletes just became more courageous, became more outspoken, if you will, to get what they deserved.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, nobody can deny the greatness of a player like Candace Parker, right? those types of players, you're right. They paved the way for so many of the things you see today. But social media obviously playing a big part because what I always tell people is, I've been doing this a long time. You get the news right now, whereas back in the day, you didn't get the news right now. You got it later in the day or even sometimes the next day. So these players being able to take advantage of that, I think, has helped them in some regards as well. What do you think about this impact it'll have when it comes to the transfer portal? How does this settlement, how does this revenue sharing help or hurt you when you're trying to recruit out of the transfer portal, which is something you spend a lot of time having to do, every coach does anymore?
Well, the transfer portal is where you would hope the cap will alleviate some issues, but I think it's more so about decisions as a head coach and bringing in players who have the main thing, which is winning. Having initial conversations, talking about money, it's a little off-putting.
Yeah. Say that one more time. I don't think the kids get that. You got to say that one louder for the people in the back.
Yeah, and you know what? Even when I have an initial conversation, especially when it comes to transfer, I usually don't bring up NIL on my first conversation, just to see if they bring it up first. Then that leads to a follow-up conversation. Hey, just wanted to also mention this. So I guess I gave my little secret out with recruiting. But again, I think the cap hopefully helps. But at the end of the day, the revenue sharing is not going anywhere. So we have to be strategic in how we recruit.
I think that your point about the NIL money and how, I don't know if brazen is the right word to say, but how brazen some people have gotten with asking or expecting NIL money at this point. I have a friend of mine who coaches at another Division I, and she mentioned to me that she was getting DMs from people she hadn't even spoken to saying, Coach, I'd be interested if you can offer X amount of NIL money, which is just insane to me. Like, you're not even in a conversation at that point with that person. So I do think it's interesting that the cap could help in that regard. But when you're talking about NIL money and kind of those weird sometimes awkward conversations, could you give some advice to maybe any young players who are out there who are maybe going to be starting their process of talking to coaches, maybe some of the do's and don'ts?
Yeah. I know a big buzz phrase right now is knowing your worth. But I think I would add to that being realistic about your worth. You have to, you can hold out as long as possible and, try to wait, but also at the same time, you have to know the positive and negatives of doing that. So I think just the reality is important, knowing yourself. And then also going to the school that fits what you want to do outside of basketball, because obviously, again, I can only speak for myself. You're going to get what you need at Memphis from, whether it be revenue sharing, NIL, whatever the case. So you have to look at, okay, well, if it's not a perfect world, what am I getting from that? If I go to that school and I don't play, how am I going to feel? will I still want to be here, knowing some of those hard things are happening? So I think that's kind of my best advice.
One of the questions we always tell our kids whenever they're getting ready to go to college is, if you take basketball out of the equation, would you still go to school there?
Yeah.
And a lot of times if the answer is no, then that's probably not where you need to go, because there's always the chance that could happen, right? And so have you found that in your transfer portal conversations, because those are interesting, I think, your transfer portal conversations, have you been able to express the value of Memphis? Because I know there are some kids who only see dollar signs right now, unfortunately, because they get some bad advice, I would say.
Well, I've said this before, that, I may have screwed us up in recruiting with a couple of student athletes, because they didn't see the value. I didn't feel like they saw the value in Memphis. They didn't see the value in me as a head coach and our staff. They just didn't see the value in it. And so you had to be picky about who we bring in our program. And I can say that with the roster that we put together, NIL was not the first, second, and probably not even the third conversation that we had with all of our players right now.
Awesome. Well, you just mentioned something. You talked about your current roster. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, how recruiting's been going. When we come back, we're going to take this quick break, but we're going to check in on how the offseason's been going for you, Coach, when it comes to recruiting. I've seen you out on the recruiting trail. I know you have not spent much time at home. We're going to head into year 3. Stick around. We're going to talk a lot more about Memphis women's basketball and kind of the state of it.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app, streaming 24/7 local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus, complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. Those storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
It's how big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene, faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
All right, welcome back. We're going to pick up our conversation with Memphis women's head basketball coach Alex Simmons. We've been talking about the settlement before, but now let's dive into kind of what's going on in Memphis right now at the university as you've been able to get out and start your recruiting. Now, a lot of people may not realize, but you have to recruit almost year-round right now, and bringing in talent to wear your colors is from the transfer portal and high school kids. How do you feel like your current team is stacking up?
I'm really proud of the team that we put together going into a new season. We brought in 11 new players. One of my goals in recruiting there's a lot of them, but we want to have Tennessee players on our team, and we've done that. We have 2 Tennessee players, in Corey Allen and Deja Richmond, and then just making sure we're getting the right pieces for how we play. I think that's very important. Sometimes you just take players and you worry about it later as far as if they fit in the system. So I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, we see a list on the screen of some of these players that you just mentioned and the signees that you've got at this point, and it's a nice mix, right? I was kind of looking at the stats and trying to figure out, okay, what did you feel like you guys needed to add to be more competitive in this next season?
Basketball IQ was kind of the top priority for us. We needed more size. And then, as you well know, historically, we always have a very dynamic guard. This year, I think we added multiple dynamic guards who play both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Well, size is like the misnomer that everybody's looking for, right? Like, where can you find not only a big kid, but a big kid who's actually got the skill set that you need, and then IQ. I mean, that's a if you can find a kid who really understands how to play basketball anymore, it's tough. You feel like you found those pieces, though, right?
I do. Jordan Hunter is somebody who we recruited out of high school. She went in the transfer portal from Auburn, but what she brings on the court leadership-wise, sees things before they're happening, talks to her teammates. She's just an all-around great leader. Amari Williams, post player who has, honestly, she has guard skills around the basket. So she was very, very important for us to get, bringing that size. Corey Allen, who brings leadership, dynamic guard. Shea Harris, who also brings leadership, dynamic guard, scoring mentality. Returners, Tamaya Smith, who's, is expected, I think she'll have a big year, becoming more versatile, getting stronger. So I think just everybody that we added, we have 2 freshmen coming in who, we expect big things out of, one of which was our last addition, Brooklyn Charlo. She has a great pedigree about her, winning a national championship in high school at IMG. So, we're just excited about who we're bringing in.
Do you feel like you've been able to put an emphasis on, we'll call them Mid-South, not necessarily just Tennessee? Obviously, you did mention you want to get Tennessee kids, but you're right here next to Arkansas, and you got Mississippi right there as well. Do you feel like trying to find those Mid-South gems has been something you've been able to focus on?
I do. It's not necessarily all about who plays on the biggest league or who plays on the team with the biggest deal. Sometimes you find those players, and you can see that in, just in our rosters from the past. You have those players who may have been unknown or, who kind of flew under the radar. They come to college, they're locked in, they're bought into what you're doing, and they become some of your best players.
Do you find that it's between transfer portal and mixing high school kids and maybe even JUCO kids in there, how have you been able to maintain and keep the culture of Memphis women's basketball that you want? Because, culture became a buzzword for a little bit there, right? Everybody was saying culture, and then nobody was sure what that meant anymore. You feel like you've been able to create and build that at Memphis? I
think we will going into this year. It's been hard the past 2 years because whether it be, the mixture of players. Last year we had a lot of seniors, and then those seniors also came from other places. And I think the longevity of programs happens when you have consistency in players. So I think now and then moving forward, we'll be able to do that.
That's good. Do you think that finding that, is that the hardest part, finding that perfect mix? I say perfect, finding that right mix between transfer or JUCO and then high school kids, because it's no secret, there are less high school scholarships available now than there have been in the past with the portal. So how do you find that right mix where you feel like you're getting the right number of kids?
Well, we established pretty early, immediately after the season, that we wanted to bring in players because we knew we were going to lose a lot. So we wanted to bring in players that had multiple years left, a healthy split of seniors and freshmen. So we have 2 seniors, we have 2 freshmen, but also bringing in players who played a little bit at their last school, maybe didn't get a lot of minutes, but they got quality minutes. So I think we do have, for us, because we established it so early, and we didn't take players just to take them, just to add to the roster, I think we did do a good job of doing that.
Have you been able to get out to many games at the high school level out here in Tennessee, just for people to, name and face recognition? I know how kids and players and parents all feel whenever they see you show up at a game.
It's pretty easy around here, especially in Memphis, because, the basketball is pretty good. Yeah. Our schedules, especially in conference, don't necessarily match up with high school schedules. Our off days on Sundays. Yeah. So, want an off day during the week so that you can get out. But we've tried to make sure that, everybody's seeing the Memphis brand.
And what does the Memphis brand mean to you as you're recruiting? Because, you're selling the program to the kids just like the kids are selling themselves to you when they're playing. What does the Memphis brand mean to you when you are recruiting out there?
Players that understand what it means to just always trying to reach perfection. I think sometimes we use a crutch of, well, I'm not perfect, so it should be okay that I make mistakes. But always striving for perfection. Every time the bar is raised, we're still trying to reach it. We're never going to get there, but we have to keep going until, the bar is never going to stop. And then I think just applying pressure. That's one of my main phrases right now, is applying pressure no matter what we do, whether it's in the office, on the court. The toughness of players is important, how good of teammates they are, how selfless they are, but then also being selfish. being locked into their own goals and living their goals every day in their lifestyle.
You got a lot of that Tennessee Lady Vol coming out in that brand. The toughness for sure. Some of those other things. Would you have a message for high school players who might be watching right now who are thinking, man, I'd love to go play at Memphis. I wish she'd recruit me, but I'm not scoring 25 points a game. Because there's this misnomer that if you're not the leading scorer, you're not going to get recruited.
Well, I'll honestly say that's not always a player that we recruit. Development is a priority for me, and long-term development is a priority for me. So, I think just being locked into what you're good at and continuing to work on your craft is important. Being honest, you do have to be picky and be selective on who you play for when it comes to summer basketball, because you want to play for a coach who has those connections. So I just think being realistic about who you are, being the best player, being the best person you can be every day, and things will work out how they're supposed to.
Yeah, and a message from me, she won't say it, I'll say it to parents. Be cool in the stands. Because when your baby scores, they're going to look and see what the parents do. And so if your baby gets fouled, just let her shoot free throws. Leave it alone.
Yeah, right.
All right.
It's funny. I watched a player yesterday before she played. Another game was going on. I just watched her to see how she was. So I don't think a lot of people realize we're not just watching like the in-game stuff. Sometimes it's even before the game starts.
Yeah, I have had a lot of coaches tell me that they'll show up early to the game just to watch the kid warm up, to see how she shoots in the warm-up, see how she acts in the warm-up. Do you have your headphones on, not engaging with your teammates? All those little things that sometimes people don't understand.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here with this segment, let's talk a little bit about the turnaround you expect for this third year, because you did it, you've done it before, right? And for people who don't know, it takes time to turn a program. It doesn't happen overnight. Coming into this season, what are you expecting and hoping for that turnaround to happen? You feel like it's about that time for Memphis?
I think this year will be the year for it to happen. Like I said, we brought in some players who I think can, because of our style of play and our system, we brought in players who understand the system, who have a really big and strong basketball IQ. And I think that'll get us more wins, not necessarily put more balls in the basket. So I think this year will be special for us. I think these players are locked into our team goals. It's just time for us to put our heads down and work and focus on us and not really worry about what everybody else is doing.
Seems like the administration has been very supportive as you take the time to rebuild. Do you have any words about that, about them being able to step back and say, hey, Coach, we got you, you're good to go? Well,
our athletic director came to me probably mid-season last year, close to mid-season, and just we had a conversation about, the state of our team with injuries and, players having to play and was just kind of understanding, but also, every leader wants the best for what they're leading. Yeah. So I think it's very much where everybody's on the same page when it comes to where we're going.
Now, you've added bodies on the floor, but you've also added bodies on the coaching staff, too. Let's talk a little bit about your coaching additions, too. Who all have you brought in? Now one of these I'm real familiar with, but I'll go ahead and let you give your staff a shout-out.
So Bria Elmore, she was actually a graduate manager for us last year. She's also an alum of the program. Should be a familiar name to some local Memphians for our program. But I just watched her in the past year, and her attention to detail, more importantly, her passion for basketball, her passion to see players get to the next level. And I thought that she deserved to be on the staff as an assistant coach. Garner Small, evaluating this season and going back and just reflecting, I kept going back to foundation. As many people may or may not know, but Garner came with me during my first stint as a head coach, helped me build a program, helped me develop a culture. And so, it was important for me to do what I needed to do to get him back on the staff. Shalon Pillow, she's somebody who
best name in coaching, by the way.
She has a lot of experience at many high levels: University of Kentucky, Middle Tennessee State. South Florida, and then she's been a head coach at FAMU. So what she brings, the things that she could take off of my plate, and just having the extra eyes, who as somebody who has also had to lead a program, and then Kevin Sullivan, who, I think is somebody who is a basketball brain. He has a really, really big future. I give him a lot of credit for the efficiency from year 1 to year 2 that we were able to create, and just being a better offensive team. And then being able to keep Harlan Wyatt as our recruiting coordinator. When you look at our roster, you should immediately think of Harlan, because she's done a great job of making sure that we're bringing in the right players. More importantly, and more of a priority, bringing in the right players that fit who I am as a head coach.
I can tell you, every assistant coach I know, when we're out on the road, is always like, I got to find out what my coach wants. It's like, yeah, I like that player, but that's not what coach wants. And when you hear the assistants say that, instead of I like that player, I'm going to tell coach that we need her. It's I like that player, but that doesn't fit what coach is looking for. Then you got a staff that's going to get it done. It sounds like you're not just developing players, but you're developing future head coaches as well on that staff. So.
Yeah, that's always the goal. My goal as a head coach is I want people around me who also want to be head coaches or at least be in leadership positions.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much, Coach, for your time. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
True story, Coach and I met in an airplane. We were both on our way to Houston for a basketball event, and I was like, hey, I work in your city. So it all worked out. We appreciate you spending the time with us today. Everything you've done to this point, not just for your team, but obviously for all the young women that you're helping along the way, as well as the Memphis community. We wishing you the best this season, and just know we're going to be pulling for you here at ABC 24. Now, because if there's one thing we know about Memphis, it's a basketball city. You're going to find a hooper somewhere. And there's nothing quite like it when the game's rolling, whether we're talking college or pro. Thanks again, Coach, and good luck this year. We will have much more on this, but Coach Alex Simmons, thanks again for your time. Take a quick break. We'll be back. When we come back, we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people are iffy about. We're talking about the Grizz trading Desmond Bain. Is it a big win for the Grizz? Is it a loss? We'll have the latest on the trade right after this.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus, complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. Those storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
It's how big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene, faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
Nobody really expected him to be what he has become on this team. And that is one of the Iron Men, quite frankly. He has played in all 79 games, and he started in 74 of them. And so when you have a guy like that, he's been nothing but dependable pretty much all year. And when you have a guy who's dependable pretty much all year, you've got to find folks to fill in his space. Jalen has been arguably the best wing defender on the team the entirety of the year. He's had so many games this season where he has been tasked with defending the best player on the team or the best perimeter player on the other team. He's had some phenomenal defensive performances, shutting down the likes of Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. And even when they've had really good games, they still had to contend with Jalen being in their hip pocket.
I wanted Michael Jordan to come. I wanted Scottie and them to come. You know, they was winning championships in my town. It'd have been great for them to come pass out toys and turkeys and things, but they didn't do it. Not saying now that it ain't a reason why I shouldn't, because they not from where I'm from.
Right.
So it's on me to go ahead and change that narrative. It's on me to go back and get hope. And that's what I do, man, even till this day, man. From Maine to Spain to China, Carolina. If it's a hood near you, TA gonna be there.
So it's always good being back in Memphis. Just, you know, it's home, and being back always feels like that.
It's actually really the more disturbing thing I saw this week. Not really comforting, especially if you're a Grizzlies fan. Grizzlies getting into a little shoving match against the Utah Jazz. Desmond Bane goes full two-arm shove into Santi Aldama, and would look like a pretty heated argument on the sideline, on the bench, and during a timeout. Grizzlies trying to hold the ship together. Just 10 games left in the regular season. They have slid from second to fifth place in the West. They did beat the Utah Jazz by almost 40 points in this game after the shove, or we're assuming it's after the shove. There's no really way to tell when this was in the game, but hopefully the big win is a sign of better things to come. Let's hope this brotherly shove is not an early sign of a flame out in the playoffs.
But I do think this has a chance to be a major league rock fight.
Yeah, a rock fight is about right, especially because Michigan State is so good on the defensive side of the ball, the number one team in three-point percentage defense. So I think Ole Miss is going to have to knock down a couple and really make the Spartans respect that. But they're going to have to get in the paint in this one, because Michigan State is so good around the perimeter. And at the same time, I think it has to be a big game for Diaz and Dre Davis on the inside, because Michigan State does so well in rebounding. They have a plus 9.8 rebound margin. I think that's top 2 or 3 in the entire country. So this is certainly going to...
All right, welcome back. We got some big news from the Grizzlies this weekend. They traded Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic. Now, Bane averaged about 19 points a game for the Grizz. In return, the Grizz are actually getting a lot, if you think about it. Contavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony are headed to Memphis, but they also get 4 first-round future draft picks and a first-round swap in the year 2029. Now, while some Grizzlies fans have been concerned about the trade, the reality is that the Grizz could be positioning themselves to grab another young star while actually adding some playoff experience. Pope, by the way, averaged about 8 points a game last season. Anthony averaged around 9, so they will have to make up some scoring somewhere in there. Now, if you're curious kind of what this could mean for the Grizzlies, the idea is pretty simple. At some point in time, they were going to have to get rid of probably one of their big 3. You know, one of those guys was going to have Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja Morant, or Desmond Bane. One of those 3 was going to have to go if they were going to get a value trade. Now, a lot of people may have been thinking they were going to try to trade for a big man, with Zach Edey being on the sidelines for a little bit, but apparently they decided to go this route and then bank on the future. The idea here is that the big 3, I heard one commentator tell me that the big 3 had a chance. They kind of had their heyday, and then they never really panned out to get as far as they had planned on. So at this point, it was kind of like make a move or ride them all the way out. So the Grizzlies obviously decided to make a move and trade while they have the opportunity to get some value. And they did get a lot of value. If you really think about it, those 4 first-round picks and that swap are all huge in the long-term plan of the Grizzlies. If you're thinking long-term, you got to be thinking it gives you the opportunity to get another future star to go alongside one of these other guys who becomes more of a veteran later on down the line. All right, so tonight, by the way, a huge night. I just wanted to listen to that little stinger there for a little bit. It's a huge night in the NBA Finals. The series is tied at 2 each. The Thunder came back to win in Game 4 at Indy, splitting the road games for each team. Kind of knew this was going to happen. If you watch much of the NBA Finals in the past, this was probably going to happen. They were led by SGA. The Thunder, though, would not go away in Game 4. I do believe this was a walk, but whatever. Even when the Pacers took a double-digit lead, the Thunder kept finding ways to keep it close. Part of that's on the Pacers. They had some silly turnovers, an offensive foul, a turnover for no reason, things that had put the Thunder back in the game. The MVP scored 15 of his 35 points in the fourth quarter to lead that comeback. By contrast, Tyrese Halliburton only scored 18 points for the Pacers. People are still waiting on Tyrese to have another big game, a big monumental game in the finals. You want to be the man in the league, you got to show up big in the finals. So what does that mean? That means that tonight's game is crucial. If the Thunder win, they regain home court advantage with 2 more chances to win. It puts them at an easy advantage at that point. I say easy, easier. But if the Pacers win, then they could potentially win their first NBA title at home on Thursday for Game 6. So who do you got? Who you're rooting for? I mean, at this point, I think it's kind of a toss-up. It might go to Game 7. Don't forget, though, you can catch the game right here on ABC 24. It starts tonight at 7:30. That's going to be Game 5, the Pacers and the Thunder. Now, there's a lot of people that have been, for years, the talk was, let's see some different teams in the finals. We want to see somebody else win it, right? Well, now you've got two different teams in the finals, so you got to tune in to watch because it's actually good basketball. To be honest with you, it's some of the best NBA basketball I've seen in a while because they're running sets. It's not nearly as much ISO. They move the ball. Everybody's playing defense. It's been fun to watch. Now, you know how these things go. Tip-off won't exactly be at 7:30. You know that, but that's when the broadcast begins. Stay tuned for all that action, and then after the game, you can watch us right here on ABC 24 News at 10. It won't be at 10, but it'll be around 10-ish, right? 10-ish is close enough. Still to come, the best thing I saw this week is Caitlin Clark going off on in her return. We'll be back with her crazy numbers right after this.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app. Streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus. Complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. Those storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
It's how big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene, faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
I did not need a microscope to see this as the best thing I saw. If you didn't watch it, then you missed a little bit of a show. Caitlin Clark on Saturday making her long-awaited WNBA return, and check those out. That's over Stewie, Breanna Stewart. They had a little moment there. Dominating performance over the New York Liberty there. Clark hit 3 logo threes in the first half. She scored 9 points in less than 40 seconds at one point. Now, Clark missed 5 games because of a left quad injury. Her longest spell on the sideline at any point during her collegiate or pro career. Look at these threes, just not even close. The Fever Guard was cleared for Saturday's clash with the Liberty and promptly showed that the time off did not cost her anything in terms of her shooting touch. She was a little gassed at points during the game, but she did finish with a team-high 32 points. She had 25 in the first half alone. She helped to carry the Fever to a convincing 102-88 win over the Liberty. Again, it was a performance to see. If you didn't see it, you missed one. It was the closest thing I've seen to that Reggie Miller performance in a while. Well, that's the show for today. Thanks to Coach Alex Simmons for joining us here on the 24th floor. A lot of insight, some great information. Thanks to Richard Denson and Jared Robinson for their work behind the scenes. I couldn't do it without them, making all this happen. Avery will be back later this week. So until next time that he takes another vacation, then you won't see me again. And that'll be the next time I take over the 24th floor. Until then, we'll see you later.